What is the worst thing you've seen a little child do? When my cousin was about 4 years old, caught him spraying hairspray into the furnace flames trying to blow the house up. Good times. Ah yes, the scene test. I do a lot of secure transports between hospitals and psych facilities. I once transported an 8-year-old kid who flushed his parents' insulin because he knew they needed it to live. My neighbor's kid was burning ants to death with a magnifying glass. After a while he decided that ants were too boring, so he tried to hold down his cat burn it with the magnifying glass. Let's just say the cat fucked the kid up. In my kindergarten class, this big kid punched a girl in the face and then slammed her face into a desk because she stole my seat. BTW, it wasn't his seat and he never sat there. A neighbor's kid would mercilessly throw their 2 cats into the pool. The cats would fight and scratch, but that didn't stop the boy from flinging the cats repeatedly into the pool and forcing them to swim or drown. His father finally broke him of this behavior by throwing the kid in the pool, clothes and all, every time he caught his son torturing the cats. Saw a young girl enter a store with her mom and throw a fit when she couldn't get a Barbie doll. Her wailing caused a group of people to show up, and things blew up when the girl decided to say that the woman was not her mom. Police were called. I, being a young stoker at the end of my shift, told my manager that the girl came in with a woman and promptly clocked out. Long story short, told to me by the manager the next day, the police sorted the situation, and they left the property a few hours later. Remember that scene in Game of Thrones where Gregor Clegane fights a bear in Martell and pushes his eyes in to blow his head up? My mother works in a kindergarten where they accept special needs kids too. She told me one day one of the more special kids got another kid on the ground and started pressing his eyes in just like in the show. All the other kids started screaming in terror, not to mention the poor victim, and the attending adult couldn't even get him off. He was gripping his victim so hard. One of the other kids had to run for help, and they could finally get him off. Luckily the kid didn't suffer any lasting harm. It was me. This was at our first house, so I must have been between 2 to 3 at the time. We were in our driveway with one of my parents' friends. I was just playing around like usual. I had a chalk and a dark green easel in my room, which I enjoyed playing with often. So I was in the driveway milling about when I found a piece of chalk and spotted their friend's dark green car. Toddler me saw no problems with this, so I started drawing. My mom saw what I was doing. Suddenly everyone got really upset, really fast. My mom made me drop the chalk, and my hands were completely bloody and started to hurt. I was so confused and upset, it didn't occur to me until later what happened. It wasn't chalk, it was glass. I scratched that poor guy's car up to kingdom come with glass. We still saw that friend 4 years afterwards, so it evidently wasn't a friendship ruining moment. I'm sure they paid for the paint job. In another case of mistaken identity, did you know that to a child who knows nothing about cacti, certain ones look super soft and fluffy? They're not. They're absolutely not. Oh gosh, the list could go on for me, but here is one incident that really irked me. My sophomore year of college, my cousin asked me if I can take her 2 daughters, 11 and 6, to the mall because she was busy and the girls wanted to use their spending money. We go to the mall, I buy them ice cream, and they spend their money. As we're leaving, we pass Claire's and boy oh boy does the youngest want to check it out. Now here is some backstory with these kids. Their mom, my cousin, doesn't punish them worth of shit. I had their son throw a toy train at me once and all I got in response, when I told his mom was he's 9 and you're 19, just be the bigger person. He's just a kid. That kind of parenting. Anyways, I tell the 6-year that we can look, but because she already spent her money, we weren't buying anything. As soon as we walk in, she goes up to something she wants and says buy this for me. When I say no, she announces in the store fine then, I'll just take it, and proceeds to walk out the door. I take the U back and tell her that we are going home. Never have I seen a kid throw a tantrum like this in my life. The worst part was every time I tried to carry her or grab her hand she'd scream, "Help me. Help me. I don't know you." The oldest kid records all of it and sends it to her mom, who then simply responds, "Haha, good luck." When we got home, my cousin told me she wouldn't have thrown the tantrum if you just got her the toy. I was livid. A friend of mine in elementary school would literally beat up her mother. When her mother became pregnant, she would kick and punch her mother's belly. She was like 10. I remember my mom always stepping in if it happened while we were around, but it was like this poor woman was afraid of her own daughter and she just took it. SMH. When I was an English teacher in China, I had a 7-year-old student called Prince. That was not just his chosen English name, which can be anything from Sally or Ben to Superman or JJ Kangaroo, but also a direct translation of his Chinese name, which gives you all the information you need about this child's idea of his station in life and how he was treated by his parents. This kid yelled at the other kids and me on a daily basis, threw fists if anyone got too close, and once threw a, luckily light plastic, chair across the classroom at me. But the worst of all was the time that this kid screamed so much his throat started bleeding. He had to go to hospital and couldn't speak for a few days, which was a blessing, following which I was called into my boss's office and told that his parents were blaming me for it. I told her how absolutely ridiculous that was and made it very clear that when the term rolled over I would not be teaching any class which he was in. My cousin would find crayfish in the creek and throw them in fans of running at condensing units for fun. Forced me and his little sister to skip school. Midwinter in Georgia. He then soaked a cat in cold water and threw it outside in the freezing weather. We found it frozen solid later that day and he cheered. We got caught for skipping elementary school. Once he took a big shit while we were all eating dinner. He brought it out to the table, then proceeded to squeeze it between his fingers in front of everyone. All of this was before he was in middle school. Not sure how little of a child you mean. We had a 5-year-old patient, and even after constant cajoling and getting him familiar to the environment, he would just not sit on the dental chair. When my senior tried to talk to him nicely, he spat on her and started pulling her hair. And mind you, this was during the diagnosis itself. We had not even started treatment. When we called his mother, he took a probe and pierced his own hand, crying to his mother that we did it to him. Worst patient/kid I have ever encountered. There is a difference between a child's trick and pure fucking evil. When I was a kid, I remember there was another kid who would like to put toys/coins to lure other kids under a full metal seesaw, those where one sits on the one end and another kid on the opposite end. Anyways, this demon would put things under one end and sit at the other. When a kid would try and go for his trap, he would stand up in the metal seat, would fall right to his victim, saw more than a couple open heads because of him. He was not fun to play around, and pretty sure now he's either in jail or dead. Edit. Some spelling, leave me alone. When I was in about 5th grade, I was in the bathroom at my elementary school. A young mom came in with a baby, probably 4-6 months old, and there were no changing tables, since it was a bathroom for the students. She laid out a blanket and began changing her child on the floor, since that was the best option. A girl, probably 7 or 8 years old, comes out of the stall and begins kicking the heck out of the baby on the floor. Like almost curb stomping it. Obviously the mom freaked out. Me, being 10 years old, could not process what just happened and noped out of there. Still bothers me. I hope the baby was okay. During the first week of my current job, my boss brought his kid, 6Y/0, to the office. She walked into my office and said hi very sweetly, making me think she was a normal, nice kid. She motioned that she had a secret to tell me, so I bent over. She cupped both hands around my ear and screamed as loud as she possibly could. I shouted in pain and stood up, and she kicked me in the nuts, punched my stomach, then ran away giggling. That's when I learned she can never be trusted. I've caught her going through my desk, stealing stuff. I have several office plants and I just know she's going to destroy them someday. She likes to glare at me through my office window like Jack in The Shining, stabbing the glass with a pencil or scissors until I tell her to go away. Once she ate all 15 cookies I brought in for a coworker's birthday, then came to me and asked me to make more for her. When she's in the office I lock my door and pretend she's not there until she goes away. Not really evil per se, but I remember this little girl back when I was in elementary school. She was a classmate of my younger sister, about 7 or 8 years, I was 9 or 10. During recess we quickly learned to never look at her, as she had this habit of charging anyone looking at her and bite them hard, feral dog having a tantrum hard. I remember her teeth being all black as she would react with extreme violence anytime someone would try to make her brush or clean her up. To this day I can't understand why she was kept in a normal school rather than an institution, as she was clearly insane. One time I saw this kid in the park with a huge bottle of Coca-Cola. He was like 4 or 3, and he thought it would be a good idea to take a water gun and fill it with Coca-Cola and shoot everyone in the park as the parents sat there and did absolutely nothing.